الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
First, before I get started, how many in here are Muslim? Raise your hands. Oh, wait a minute. Let's go the other way. Okay. How many in here are not Muslims? Any non-Muslim? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, you raised your hand twice. What is that? What are you trying to tell me here? Aren't you kind of afraid sitting with all these terrorists? I mean Muslims. Actually, I'm just checking a level to see how loud you laugh. I really need more boost on the microphone here for that part. Okay, here we go. 5, 4. Wait a minute, what's the topic? Okay, got it. Something about shape. I'm on a diet, man. Oh, shape in the future. Yeah, we are. Bismillah, alhamdulillah. You're listening to Islam Tomorrow, broadcasting almost live all the way from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We're at the university here in Calgary, and we're having a pretty fair time of it. We're here with the Muslims, and a few of our non-Muslim guests are with us. So I'm going to begin with a great big welcome, or a greeting that we use in Islam, very common. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. When I get back, I'll just turn that up on the editor and see if I can get it up. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Who did that? I like this, a good laugh. Do that again. I need that. Would you like to travel with us? We'll pay your way, everything. Just laugh like that. All right. Good. For a rebroadcast of this and other exciting programs, you can visit us on the internet at www.islamtomorrow.com. That's ISLAMTOMORROW.com. Double. Why do we say W? Have you ever looked at that thing? It's not 2 U's, it's 2 V's. We should say double V. Unless we're from Pakistan, double we. Now they laugh. Mashallah. Yeah, hey. Okay. So, and the shape of things to come, or something like that. Let me look again. Shape up the speech here. It says Muslim youth shaping the future of. Oh, my thumb's over it. Islam. I got it. Okay. Shaping the future of Islam. Why is that on 2 lines? Did you notice that? I mean, that's not fair. My thumb was covering up the topic. Okay. Are we any Muslim youth here? 1, 2. Okay, let me explain to you. I'm 60 years old, so anybody under 50 is a youth. Do we have any youth here? Yeah, all right, everybody. That's what I thought. All right. That's cooking. And Muslims, and we already did a take on that. We found that there's a bunch of them in here. Sounds good. Shaping the future of Islam. Actually, the statement isn't correct. So I have to begin by correcting this, because we can shape the future of the Muslims, but you cannot change or shape the future of Islam. Because that's already something known to Allah, and that is done deal, and it was perfected. Islam was perfected 1400 years ago, and Allah said in the Quran, Al-Yawmu akmaltu lakum dinakum, which means what? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already perfected Islam 1400 years ago. It was the last ayah revealed of the Quran. According to some riwayah, it's the last ayah revealed. So there's nothing you can do to change Islam. And in fact, if you change it, it's not Islam anymore. Therefore, it becomes what? Bid'ah. So don't do that. But do shape your own future and the future of the Muslims in the world. Can we say that? Can we make the topic like that? We're going to take a vote. Okay. All in favor of changing the topic to what I said, raise your hand. Okay. Those who want to argue the rest of the night, raise your hand. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, the ayes have it. We'll move forward. So that's pretty much it. And while we're on this subject, I want to ask you something. How many of you were actually raised here in Canada? Almost everybody, or at least half, right? How many were raised in some other country? Well, it's about 50-50. Okay. Oh, I forgot to take a roll call. How many of you are not here today? One? It's always one. What's your name? Huh? Fahim? Are you from Misr? Are you from Egypt? Saidi or something? Just trying to give you an excuse, that's all. If you would have said your name's Joha, we would have gave you the excuse. Anyhow. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't do the one about fun until 8:30. I'm sorry. Okay, no fun. Stop. Where was I? We were shaping the future. The reason I'm trying to get an idea from you of your background, where you were raised, because I'm going to tell you some of the problems that in discussing with the Muslim youth in other centers that I've visited, and I go all over the world, alhamdulillah, but yet it's different, but it's the same. It's different because the exterior is different. The landscape is different. The scenery is different. The buildings are different. But there's two things that's never different. Well, Muslims are Muslims wherever you find them, and Kapsa is Kapsa in any language. Okay, not too many from the Gulf. All right, we should have used... How many from Misr? Anybody here from Egypt? I could have said fool, and you would have been real happy, huh? I'm Saidi. Anta Saidi. Ana Saidi min Texistan. Do we have anybody, Urdu speakers here? Any Urdu speakers? Mashallah, ab Pakistan se hai. Huh? May Texistan se ho. Anybody from Turkey? Turkish? Anybody? Nobody? Okay, I'll save that joke for tomorrow. Anyway. Alhamdulillah. Don't worry, the monologue's almost over. We'll go right into the main program. Wait a minute. This guy watches Jay Leno, I can tell. Why I mention it is because if you grow up in an environment that has like split personality to it. Anybody know what I'm talking about before I say anything else? An environment which is like two personalities. I'm getting a few nods of the head. You know what I'm saying? Huh? How many of you know what I'm talking about? Because when you're at home or at the masjid, there's this one kind of, but when you're at school or if you're with the other people that live in that area, it's another, you feel like two personalities. Now anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you get the idea. So it's like when you're at home, you have to speak broken English. You know what I'm talking about? You have to say everything with an accent. I will show you. Today I was telling the kids at the school about something about called brain food. Any of you there today when I was talking about the brain food? Anybody? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. I asked them, if you've been to a university or colleges like I go all the time, I found that when they're studying for these tests, exams, finals, everybody know what I'm talking about, don't you? Or you're doing a paper or a thesis for something, and always at the deadline, at the last minute, you got to stay up and cram for it or study for it. You know what I'm talking about? If you can't sleep, you stay up all night, you need brain food. Your brain is going, right? And I figured it must be brain food because in every college and every university that I've ever been to on the earth, they all do the same thing. They pick up the telephone and they order brain food. And they bring it out to them in a square box. What am I talking about? Pizza. Can you say that real loud for the folks at home? Pizza. You don't sound very enthused. Was there something wrong with the pizzas up here? So I was telling the kids, would you like me to translate that for you so you can say it in Arabic? They said, yeah. I said, because I want you to go home and tell your folks that the Sheikh said today that you should eat more brain food, and brain food is pizza, so you can have pizza. They said, that's great, you know. I said, you want to teach you how to say it in Arabic? I said, yeah, pizza. And of course, anybody knows Arabic knows there's no P. Therefore, everybody that comes from, from over India way, they call them from Pakistan. So, alhamdulillah. By the way, the beads, it goes real good with bibzi. And when the guy delivers it, he just barks the car by the curb and brings it right in, you know. So you get this idea that whenever they say, oh, we have a sheikh, he's coming. Oh, okay. And he's going to talk to you all about, you know, you youth, you have these problems, you need to get your act together. And you want to have your act working, you want to understand what's Islam and how to put it to work in this society where we live. But then they bring him in, and it's going to be in English. And you're sitting there going, huh? And you need somebody to translate his English into English. Has it ever happened to you? You don't want to admit it. He's red-faced. It's reflecting off the scarf, right? It's cool. It's all right. But it's a problem because our youth, they want, and they show a lot of respect. You know, you see them sitting there like this, trying their best, trying to catch what's going on. But a lot of the words they're missing. Even if they understood what he said, they don't know the meaning of the word. Or if they bring an idiom or an example, especially from the culture, you miss it. Because you're used to hearing something else. But then when you're with your friends here that are not Muslim, and you're trying to communicate with them, you got a new problem. Because they're not getting what you're trying to say. So it makes you live in a double world. How many of you now exactly understand what I'm talking about? How many of you would like to find the cure for it? Well, guess what? This is the point behind the message that the brothers were trying to bring to you. You are the cure for the problem. You are the cure because you live in two worlds. And by the way, what you can do is learn how to communicate better with the ones who are coming from other countries to try to help, by learning more what they're saying and understanding more what they have. And then the second thing is to learn more how to communicate this message to these people here so they can understand it. That make sense? Everybody with me? So you're the cure. Because if you don't, then where will your children be? They will not be able to communicate with their grandparents at all. This is what happened in my country to my generations before me. So the people totally lost their ethnicity, which is no big deal. Really, I come from German, Irish, English, you know, a mixture. And we lost all of that. But the worst thing is to lose your identity in Islam. And unfortunately, we lost our identity in Christianity. I'm old enough to tell you I know that what we do now in the United States is not what we used to do 100 years ago. Not that I'm 100 years old. But my grandparents, my great uncles and aunts, and the elders that I knew were a whole lot different than the people today. They were very fine people. They were good people. They were honest people. And they tried to live by their religion, and they went to church every Sunday. And they considered it something horrible to miss church. There are still some good Christians like that today, but not very many. And it used to be that Muslims were very, very concerned if anybody missed even one Jummah. Do you know that? And today it's like you get all excited because somebody showed up for Eid. True or false? Ask yourself only one question to prove what I said. When you went to the Eid Salah, did you see more people than you'd ever seen before at any masjid? Did you see people you didn't even know? Did you see people you hadn't seen in a long time? You thought they were either moved away or dead. And they were at Eid Salah. That proves exactly what I'm talking about. Where are they? Where are they tonight? You've got room in here for probably what, 1,000 people? Room for 400? This will only hold 400? You weren't anticipating much, were you? I don't know if I'm insulted or not. Let me think about it. You know what? I didn't have to come here to be insulted. I could go anywhere and get insulted. Oh, wait a minute. Let me change that. Can we erase that? Anyhow, where are we? Okay. What I'm saying is if you want to change, if you want to shape, if you want to do something with this future, you're going to have to start with yourself. Because you can't expect the elders to be able to bring all of this down on a level that they don't even know exists. They can't. They don't know where you're coming from. Do you know that? If you went to your parents and said, "You don't understand, you don't know what I'm going through." Anybody had that feeling? You don't have to admit what you said to your parents, okay? I'm just saying you've had that feeling. You don't know where I'm coming from. Well, you're right. They don't, and they never will. But it won't do you any good to say it. Not to them. And it's better if you take the time to listen to what they have to say, and when they're through, then try to get a chance to tell them a little bit of how you're going through some things and see if they can try to help you with it. But don't be surprised if they give you a weird answer that doesn't apply whatsoever. One of our teachers, a great sheikh in Islam, his name is Dr. Jafar Sheikh Idris. One of the greatest. We love him so much. I'm going to translate the Arabic to English. We love him too much. How many of you know that's wrong to say that? Yeah. He was going to be on a television program years ago, and when he was going to go on the program, the people hosting it were Muslims, but they were going to be broadcasting to a non-Muslim audience. So they asked him, "Please don't wear this thing on your head, you know." He used to wear like a turban or imama, and his Muslim dress from Sudan. And so he said that he went to the sheikh, his sheikh from Saudi Arabia. I don't want to say who. But he went to him and he asked him, "Is it okay if I don't wear this dress when I go on the TV show?" The sheikh misunderstood him. He thought he was asking him, "Can I go on the TV show?" Because he was going to do that. That wasn't a problem. He just wanted to know, is it a problem if I take off this and put on regular clothes to do the TV? And the sheikh was telling him, giving him a fatwa that it's okay to be on TV because he said, if it's going to help Islam, then you can go ahead and do it. Do you understand? He got the wrong idea. He's answering a question that wasn't even asked. We already assume that if it's going to help Islam, it's okay to be on the TV. Who needs a fatwa for this? But it's because the mentality. You have a person that's blind, he can't see, and he doesn't know what a TV is. He heard about it, and he's talking about this. Okay, you can go be on it if it'll help Islam. And he's going, but I mean, that's okay, forget it. And he didn't ever ask him. He let it ride. He said, I'll take that to mean yes for the clothes thing too. So you're going to have to do the same thing. This is my point. You're going to have to work with us on that. We're old. Alhamdulillah, I'm an American that understands something about this two-way thing. But not like you do. You know it much better than I do. And you realize that you have to be like one person when you're in home, but then you feel like you're another person when you're out with the people. And the ones that have it the hardest are sitting right up over here. And the reason is because it's very obvious when they go anywhere. Brother, alhamdulillah, is from Egypt. Read the Quran for us tonight. You see him sitting here, look very nice in his Muslim costume. But if he wants to, he can trade that out this quick and put on, you know, a sport coat, tie, the whole bit, and walk out and go, "Hey, what's up, baby?" Nobody will know. Nobody will know he's a reciter of Quran. That he has, mashallah, a beautiful voice, and mashallah, he memorized Quran, mashallah, read in Taraweh. They just think he's another bebop guy. "Hey, what's up?" And he can go right by anybody, no problem. What's she going to do? Because it won't matter what she says. The hijab is going to give it away immediately. So, for the benefit of those who don't understand why, that's why when she goes to the school she takes it off. That's why. It's not because she doesn't love Allah. It doesn't mean she's not a good Muslim. It means, how can I deal with this? I can't be two people and have this on. But at least if I take it off, I can try to do the two people thing. Otherwise, I'm going to become a basket case. Because when you go to the school, they're going to give you a hard time. When you go to work, they're going to give you a hard time, right? So let's be fair, and let's don't start by picking and pointing over in this way. Can we do that? Because if you want to attack the sisters on the situation of hijab, I'm going to tell you, let's talk about the lihya. Let's talk about the beard. How many of you like to talk on that subject? Anybody? Huh? I didn't think so. How many sisters would like for me to talk about the lihya? Huh? All of them. Mashallah. Okay. Well. One brother told me one time, he said, could you pray for me? I said, I'll pray for you. I'm Mustafa. I'm a traveler. I like to pray for you. You know, Allah accept from you and me and all. He said, no, particularly, I need for you to pray for me that I'll grow the beard. I said, what did you say? He said, I want you to pray for me that I'll grow a beard. I said, I can't. He said, why? I said, that's shirk. What is shirk? Shirk is making a partner with Allah. It breaks the first commandment in the Bible and it breaks the first commandment in Islam. La sharika la, there is no partner with Allah. Allah says in Quran al-Kareem, more or less the translation, I'd never forgive somebody who makes shirk partnership with me in worship. But anything less than this I can forgive. Did he say that? Is that what he said? Yeah, pretty close. And in the Bible he said, thou shalt not have any other gods besides me. Meaning with me. There's no God with God. He's God. That's it. And I was saying that to him. I can't pray for you like that. That's making a partner with God. He said, what? I'm asking you to pray that I'll grow a beard. I said, no, that's shirk. Partners with Allah. Because Allah is the one who grows your beard for you. But I'll make dua that you'll quit cutting it off. Ooh, that hurt. Oh, got me. Then another one, he come to me, he said, you know what? I'd like to grow it, but my wife, she doesn't like me to have a beard. I said, you got to wonder about a woman that wants her husband to look like another woman. You know, they never invited me back to that town again. I don't know what happened. Oh, well, hey, what can I say? Can't win them all. So, when you think about it, a lot of it's going to boil down to a communication problem. And the rest of the programs we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to get into it a lot deeper. But that was the program to kick it off, to get it started, so you understand that we're living in two worlds. And in order for us to shape up the future, we're going to have a better understanding and then a way to apply it. And then when we come back, we're going to be talking about the responsibilities of our youth. Then another section about, my favorite section, fun in Islam. Well, I don't know. The break looks like it might have food. That might be my favorite subject, is the food. And then after the fun, then we're going to talk about gender interaction. Gender interaction. Anybody got a clue what we're talking about here? Yeah. Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. You're listening to Islam Tomorrow. And we're broadcasting almost live all the way from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We're at the university here and we're having a pretty fair time of it. Our subject now, we're addressing the youth in dealing with some of the problems in living in the world today in general, and especially in non-Muslim countries and trying to be a Muslim. And the subject is responsibilities of the Muslim youth. And this is going to be by Sheikh Sayyid Raji. I want to tell you before I introduce him that I've known him for years. I love him very, very much. He used to be the Imam in Laurel, Maryland. Then he came back up to Canada for a while, and then he was back down, became Imam down there again. He used to work with us at the World Assembly of Muslim Youth, and he's just a super guy, and he acts like he's 5 years old. Really, he does. Bet I'm much older. I act like I'm 7. So that's, well, by the way, you think where I work? I work for the World Assembly of Muslim what? Youth. You're right. Sometimes non-Muslim will look at me and go, who are you kidding? I tell them I'm the equivalent of the Muslim Santa Claus, and they seem to like that. So, gee, if I'd have known you were going to laugh, I'd have used that in the last segment. Anyhow, responsibilities, something important, right? But exactly what are they, and then how do we go about it? We were speaking about rights in Islam. And I want to focus on that because Islam is all about rights. If you don't understand that, you have missed the whole point of Islam. And somebody asked the Prophet ﷺ, and he's talking about rights. Let me give it to you in Arabic, because some of the elders here are looking at me going, huh? If I say it in Arabic, you're going to go, oh yeah, I know that. Haqq. Haqq. The haqq of Islam. Oh, why did you say that? The rights. They said, who has the most rights on me? And you know what the answer is? Allah. Because He is the right to be worshipped alone without any partners. And then, the Prophet ﷺ. Why? Because He's the one who brought the message, and He's the one you have to follow. The Christians were ordered the same thing. You have to follow your Prophet. And the Jews were ordered the same thing. You have to follow Abraham, and then Moses, and then David, and then Solomon. All of the prophets came with the same message. Don't worship something other than Allah. And every time they did it, they got in trouble. This is right or wrong. And the same for the Muslims. You've been ordered the same thing. So when your prophet comes and he tells you something, you have to obey him or you're going to get punished. Make sense? They're called commandments, not suggestions. So one person, he came to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, and he said, after Allah and His Messenger, who has the most rights on me? Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, your mother. He said, and then who? Your mother. And then your mother. And then your father. How many of you know this is true? How many of you act like it? You hope. It's easy for you. Is your mother still living? No, see, so he can raise his hand, nobody can catch him. That's really smart. Is this your son with you? Okay, let's go the other way. Are you giving him his rights? And he's sitting right there. Gulp. He says, ask him. So, your parents have the most right. Is that true or false? The first human beings after the prophets, they have the most rights on you are your parents. True or false? Absolutely true. This is very important to understand. It's in the Quran, it's in the Bible, it's in the Hadith, in the sayings of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So how could this be a confusing matter? Can it be confusing? But what if my parents aren't Muslim? You hear people say that. Because some people come to Islam and their parents aren't Muslim. What if they're not Muslim? Go back and read it. Read it in the Bible, read it in the Quran. It doesn't make that a condition. They are your parents. So answer the question, that's it. They're your parents. These are the ones God gave you. You give them their respect. And you obey them in every single thing except what? If they try to make you worship other than Allah. Other than that, if they tell you to go at midnight and mow the lawn when it's snowing, guess what? Put on the long johns, buddy, because you're going in the snow. You think it's a joke? Taqallah. Because if you don't make your parents happy with you, you've already made Allah angry with you. And that's an anger that none of us can handle. All of you know what I just said, but I'll share with you something you probably don't know. The Bible has two places where it mentions something that they call the Ten Commandments, although the book of Leviticus has hundreds, if not thousands of commandments. So there's more than 10, but usually they like to, just go for the Kmart special and go for the 10. But don't laugh, you're only working on one. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Okay, you're having trouble with that, don't make fun of them. Okay? So I want to go to... that's right. Okay. But I want to go to the Ten Commandments and show you a little picture here. I'm the Lord your God that brought you out of the house of bondage and the land of Egypt. You know no other God beside me, And thou shalt not have any other gods beside me. First commandment. You got it? It's about worship, isn't it? Second commandment, and thou shalt not make unto me any graven image, statues, sentiment, pictures, of anything that swims beneath the earth, walks upon the earth, or flies in the heaven above it. Is that clarified? So, nothing walking on the earth, not a man, certainly. Nothing swimming, not a fish, and not a bird. And I was sitting in a church, wallahi, one day, and I looked up, and there's a man on a cross, and they had the emblem of a fish, and they had a dove in the stained glass window. I said, wow, you didn't miss anything. And I was still a Christian, going, how do we fall for that? Third commandment says, thou shalt not take the Lord thy God's name in vain. Don't say something about God you don't have the authority to say, and don't use His name and throw it around, and have respect for His asma wa sifat. His what? Attributes and characteristics. This is what we believe as Muslims, yes or no? And then the next one. Anybody know what it is? Number 4? Any Christians here with me? Or did they all run away? Still here? Any Christian? No? Not even one? Okay, what's the 4th commandment? Somebody repeat it. He doesn't have a microphone. What did he say? Well, we know what is on his mind, but that's not exactly number 4. It's not adultery. Actually, there's a lot more things. These came in a very special order, by the way. It's not a joke. They're in the same order in the Quran, by the way. It says, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. What does Sabbath mean? Anybody know? The word Sabbath means exactly what? It's Arabic, Aramaic, in Hebrew. It means what? 7. Does it mean 7 or not? Sabbath. 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 From Aramaic. They left it this way. How it was, I don't know. Could be Hebrew, could be just mistranslation. But Sabbath means what? The 7th day of the week. Well, the first day of the week is called Yawmul Ahad. 1, Yawmul Ithnain, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. First day is Sunday, isn't it? Isn't that the first day? And you ever look on a calendar? First day is always what? Sunday. The 7th day is Sabbath day. But the Romans changed it to Saturn day because they worshiped the Saturn god on Saturday and the sun god on Sunday. How many of you know that? And Christians all worshipped God on the 7th day, as did the Jews before them, until the year 325, when the Roman government took over Christianity. The Council of Nicaea is when they endorsed the changing of the day from Saturday to Sunday, because they were Roman sun worshippers. How many of you know that? Oh, then you're going to have fun with the rest of the stuff. Because they also introduced the worship of Ishtar, the feast of Ishtar, the goddess of fertility, who, along with her rabbits and eggs, produce babies so that people could get pregnant. They want to get babies, and so this is the time of the year to do that and give offerings and sacrifices to the goddess Ishtar. Oh, in English, Easter. Ooh, eggs, rabbits. Has nothing to do with Christianity. Until the Catholic Church took over. Catholic means universal. That was the name of the Church of Rome before it became Christian. Oop. Oop. Ask any priest, and they'll go, yeah, but that doesn't matter. You say it matters to me. I didn't know that's where Catholic came from. I thought that's something. Well, go look in the Bible. How many pages do you find that say Catholic in there? 0. There's a joke about this. It's just I read it in the church. You know, the church bulletin, it comes out every Sunday. It's in the church bulletin. The child goes home to the mother from Sunday school. Mama, Mama. So what's the matter? The teacher at Sunday school said Jesus was a Jew. She said, don't worry about it. God's Episcopalian. That's their joke, not mine. I'm saying that. Didn't get it? That's okay. It wasn't worth it. I'm saying that so you understand that religion has a way of getting lost in there when people don't take care of it. And something that doesn't seem like a big deal, people lost their lives over it. A lot of people lost their lives on that event in 325 when the Romans took over the religion of Christianity. A lot of people did. Scholars were fighting like crazy against some of the things that were going on. They had over 200 books that they showed up with at that council, and only 26 of them made it to their New Testament. 27, sorry. Well, there's an argument because they put the book of Revelations in, and a few generations later they took it out, and then they put it back and they took it out, and they put it back and they took it out. How many of you know the Catholic Church has a Bible called the Reims Douay Bible? That's a Catholic Bible. It has 73 books. But when the protesters broke off from the Catholic Church, not only did they leave the church, but they left behind 7 books, because they only have 66 books in their Bible. How many versions of the Quran are there? Nobody has an extra version? There's a big difference, according to some people anyway, between Shiite and Sunni, right? There's a difference. There's 2 different groups. They're very old. So they have, the Shiites, they have a book called Quran, and the Sunnis have a book they call the Quran. Is it the same book? Exact same book. There's no difference. There's no difference. I saw both of them. There's some people that played with some things, but it's very obvious. It becomes very obvious, okay? And these are not mainstream people. These are just weirdos. But well, I'm going to ask you. You guys have been in Islam all your life. Most of you here. How many versions of Quran are there? If anybody said there was another version, what would you call him? Weirdo or worse? Worse. The Quran starts out with what? What's the first thing it says? Very, very first in the beginning of each and every single surah in the Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, except one surah, At-Tawbah, which doesn't start out with that. But it has it somewhere else in the Quran. In surah Naml? Naml, the ant. And it's talking about somebody writing a letter. I think Suleiman wrote the letter to Sheba, Bilqis. Yes? And he began the letter with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So exactly 114 times, because there's 114 surahs in the Quran, you find Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Alhamdulillah. But what would you think if you found one that was even missing the ba in Bismillah? You'd report it, wouldn't you? There's something wrong with this. What if you found one and it had the shape of the ba, but it didn't have the dot under the ba? You'd still say something wrong with that, wouldn't you? Because I've seen it in some little pictures that they like to frame and put on the wall. Ayatul Kursi, verse 255 in the Surah Baqarah. Somebody didn't put 2 dots under one of the yas. They didn't put the 2 dots to make ya. And they had a whole box full of them. They were giving it Ramadan, and nobody wanted to take one. It didn't have the 2 dots. I said, you can just like put them in. They just looked at me. I was a brand new Muslim, by the way. I said, oh, why not? It's free, and you just put the 2 dots. They said, no, I don't want to touch it. They don't want to touch it. A few people took it, you know, some of the more wise who knew that school, it's no problem. But most of the people said, I'm not going to mess with it. If it doesn't have, I don't know what else is wrong with it. In the Bible, in the New Testament, in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 17, it has an amazing statement that if Jesus said it, which he may have, listen to what it says. But if he said it, he had to be talking about the Quran. Listen. Think not that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. And not until all things are accomplished shall one jot, iota, in any wise be lessened. I gave you 3 different translations of meaning. And whosoever will break the least commandment and teach this, he'll be the least in the next life. And whosoever will do the commandments and teach this, he'll be the highest in the next life. And unless your righteousness, your taqwa, exceeds that of the Pharisees, the leaders of the Jews at that time, you're not even going to go to paradise. Pretty good statement, huh? Guess what? Somebody did come along after Jesus and broke the commandments. How many did he break? Not 1, 2, 3, or 4. Every single commandment. And he taught thus. How many of you know that? He said, because of the law, the commandments, I sin. If it were not for the law, I wouldn't sin anymore. Therefore, I am dead to the law, and the law is dead to me. Meaning what? I don't have anything to do with it. Don't sweat it. And he was a Pharisee. His name was Paul. Oops. Interesting, huh? Well, we're not here to do a debate, but if we were, I could play both parts. Well, I preach both religions, so that'd be fair. Next, when we talk about rights and responsibilities, after your parents, who has the most rights, responsibilities? Anybody know? Who? Teachers. Teachers? Well, I like that. They do have big rights. Actually, you believe it or not, children have big rights in Islam. Spouses, husbands and wives, have big rights in Islam. But your brothers and sisters also have big rights. But guess what? After your parents as a whole, it happens to be women in general after the mother. Do you know that? The order is in the Quran, Surah An-Nisa. It said, men are the protectors and maintainers of women. Nowhere in the Quran does it say women have to be the protectors and the maintainers of the men. Do you know that? Of course it doesn't. That would be a contradictory statement. Now, for the benefit of some of the people who tried to say that this means the men are over the women. Have you heard this? Some people say, hey, Quran said that the men are over the women. And some of the people attacking Islam, your book says that women are not as good as men. Have you heard that one? Yeah, I heard it a lot. They throw that to me all the time when they're trying to attack me on the subject of Islam. So you guys are macho image, you're chauvinistic, you put women down. Your book even says that the men are better than the women. But I got news for you. It says men are over the women, yes, but in responsibility. Responsibility is our subject. Responsibility how? I just told you, protectors and maintainers. Can you please define to me what a protector is? Is a protector a king with a crown? Or is a protector somebody that wears a security guard outfit with a little badge over here, doesn't even get a gun? Is that right? You're a security guard, man. And 2, maintainer. What is a maintainer? Huh? A maintainer. Is that the principal of the school or is that the custodian? Huh? Is that the one making the rules or the one cleaning up the mess? It doesn't sound to me like I'm over anybody in that kind of a job. Does it? Men have responsibilities over the women because any money he makes, he has to use to support her, feed her, care for her, insure if she needed life insurance or whatever they have that they require, or driver's license that she need to get, he has to pay for that. Yes. Medical. A what? Think about this. The only reason she need a car is if she's going to work, right? She don't have to work. Does a woman have to work in Islam? Absolutely not. It just got through saying that you're the one that have to take care of her, not her take care of you. So if she works and has a career, which she's allowed to do, what percentage does she have to pay from her money to support the house? Why were the women louder than the men on that one? What was the answer? They did it just as good the second time, didn't they? I did that one time. I was down in Mississippi someplace, a little masjid down there, and the women were in another room, and you could hear them like they were in the room with you, right? And the brothers are going. I really got into it. I was laying out all the women's rights, which is coming up in another part of our program tonight. It was funny because I heard one telling the other one, "Did you invite this guy?" Incidentally, they never invited me back again. I don't know what happened. I think that's when I got to the part about jewelry and diamonds and things that you're supposed to buy them. I think that's pretty much finished me off on that one. Anyway, you are staying for that part, right, ladies? I thought so. So, responsibilities is a big responsibility to take care of the women. Because watch what happens. A baby is born in Islam. Immediately, Islam has something to say about that baby girl. Yes or no? Absolutely, in the Quran, it talks about this baby girl, that you mustn't kill her. Because people used to do that to the babies. Abortion's not a new deal, by the way. And infanticide, killing infants, is not a new deal. The Arabs were doing that when Islam came and corrected them. How many of you know that? Yes. They couldn't do that anymore. They were forbidden to kill these little girls. In fact, there was many good things said about the girls and the benefits and the rewards that come to the one who raises these girls up. But the most important thing is that the father is absolutely responsible for that girl until she's married, even if she lives to be 100. Ooh. There's no such thing as 18, baby, you're on your own. In fact, about that age, 18 to 20, the father's going to her, you know, by the way, 50% of your deen is getting married, right? You understand what I'm saying? Suppose the father dies. Who takes care of that girl? The brother. This explains why the inheritance, when the inheritance comes, when a parent dies, the boy gets more than the girl. Absolutely, that's true. But he has to spend it on her and her mother and any of the women in the family that need help. And guess what? What if her brother dies? Her husband. But what if she doesn't get married? Then the community. If she does get married, her husband has the responsibility. And if he dies, then her son has the responsibility. And if they're all dead, then the community has the responsibility. A woman never, ever, ever has to go out and take the job and the responsibility of a man. And do you know why? Because the job and the responsibility of a woman is hard. It requires a tremendous ability, capability, patience. Am I right or wrong, ladies? Anybody say I'm wrong from the ladies' side? No. If she does, she's in trouble with all the rest of them. There's a point here. Just having a baby. Because one person, he said to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, I carried my mother on my back, and I walked all the way around the Kaaba, which is that square box that's there in the Mecca, in the Haram. 7 times with his mother on his back, walking, trying to carry her. Have I fulfilled my rights that my mother has on me? I mean, that's pretty hard. The Prophet ﷺ, peace be upon him, he said, not even for one pain that she had in giving birth to you. Ouch. I asked my wife, she was having a baby, and I was there in the room, and she grabbed my hand, and she was having that pain, you know, that comes. Anybody know what it's a birth pain? Anybody know what a birth pain is? You ladies had a baby, you know what I'm talking about? She grabbed my hand, and I thought a truck drove over it. And I'm going, ow, ooh, ow, ooh, ooh, breathe, do something. Until she got through the pain and she let go. Oh, man, step back. I'm going to give some distance here. What was that? That's horrible pain she put in my hand. She looked up at me and she said, you just don't know the pain what it is that you have when you have a baby. I said, wow. I asked about it later. I kind of got away on that one, but later, you know, we're sitting back someday. I said, oh, by the way, we were talking about birth pains. You remember that? Yeah. I said, can you give me some idea? What is that like? What kind of pain is it makes you do like that? She said, a woman cannot tell a man what kind of pain that is. But if you want to get an idea, grab your bottom lip. Brothers, hello, wake up. Take your bottom lip and you want me to come over there and get you? Take your bottom lip. Now pull it up over your head. And that won't even get you started. And the Prophet ﷺ said, not even for one birth pain. Because your mother has so much rights on you. She carried you in her stomach. She delivered you. She cared for you when nobody would have cared for you. Trust me. I heard one woman say that if man gave first birth, the first birth that was ever came from man, there had never been a second one. And you think about it. How many of you brothers here right now, with me tonight, how many of you ever had to take care of a little baby for one day, an afternoon, or sometime? You had a little baby. Some baby you were trying to take care of. Have you? You know, change the diaper, put the bottle in the mouth, all that kind of thing. How many of you would put that as number one thing to volunteer for? Number 2. Maybe a number 3 thing, but you know, like you have a choice here: video games, pizza parlor. You know, where are you going to take over and babysit a kid for all day? On a list of 1 to 10 things, number 11, right? Am I right, sisters? Because they're cute. Goo goo gaga. Oh, they're funny. Look at the little fingers. Until about 10 minutes later, you go, "What's that smell?" Honey, the baby needs you. Yes or no? Yeah, come on. I think he made a boom boom. So the responsibility is to women. Big responsibility to the women. And by the way, you're not getting your rights, ladies. But it's your own fault. You need to spend more time studying Islam, less time watching the TV. Figure out what your rights are, and you know you can control these guys. They're easy. Hey, you know it. You didn't know you didn't know how easy you were? Oh, you do. Okay, you do. So, what's the next responsibility after that? Huh? Neighbors come up. But actually it's your children next. Your children have big rights on you. We mentioned the girls and you saw their rights right away, but the boys also have some rights. They do have rights. And your spouses, your wives, your husbands, they have rights. They have big rights. The rights of a husband on his wife is that she will guard his property when he's away. That she won't associate with people that he doesn't want being around his place. That's his right. And that she will never discuss any of his business, private or otherwise, with people that he doesn't want discussed. She will never ever gossip behind his back. Ever. Or even allow people to make fun of her husband. That's his right. But she has rights too. Obviously he can't do any of those things either. Plus he has to do the MONEY. Take care of the financial responsibility. Now let's go to the neighbors. Islam is teaching us about the rights of the neighbors to the extent that it was so amazing, I couldn't believe it. When I heard about it, I said, are you sure this is real? In the days when I was first in Islam, we moved to a trailer park. A trailer park has a lot of neighbors, right? And they were telling me how many, 40 neighbors this way and that way, and I'm going, that's everybody in this park. And they said, actually, you're responsible for all your neighbors. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to go around and see if everybody got to eat today? Believe it or not, the Prophet ﷺ was concerned about his neighbors, even if they were his enemies. Is that true or false? We say it, we hear the hadith, but we didn't think about it, how it really applies. Let's look at one. There was one neighbor, was very hateful, used to put garbage on his doorstep. And every morning when he would open the door, there's garbage. Yes or no? And he had to clean it up. And by the way, he didn't call his wife over to do it for him either. He actually did it. He would clean it up himself. One day the garbage wasn't there. Anybody in this room, tell the truth. If you didn't see the garbage, you'd say, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, I don't have to worry with that today, and walk on about your business. But a person who cares about his neighbor would say, why isn't the garbage there? And that's exactly what he did. He said, why isn't the garbage there? Where's my neighbor? What happened to him? He went to his house, he knocked and took permission from him, and he said, I thought maybe you're sick. He said, yes, I'm sick, but how come you're coming to visit me? Because Muslims, we have to go visit the sick, you know, especially our neighbors. He said, but I'm the one who's been putting the trash on your doorstep. He said, I know that. That's how I know you were sick. Oh my God. Do you have any idea of the reality of the responsibility in Islam? When your enemies have rights, to the extent that if you capture an enemy, you have to feed them, clothe them, provide for them to be clean, to wash up. You have to provide for their medical needs. And if they die, or if you kill them in battle, by the way, you cannot torture an enemy. Torturing is not permissible in Islam. That's right. You can't go heat up a hot iron and come over and stick it on a guy's feet and torture him. That's only in rare cases where somebody is very evil and the punishment is something equal to what he did. But as far as just being an enemy and you captured him, you can't, pluck out his eyes and things like that. You can't do stuff like that. This is 1400 years before the Geneva Convention. And the Geneva Convention is where they come up with the rules for having wars. So we'd be real civilized while we slaughter each other. But Islam forbids that even when your enemy dies, you can't spit on them. You can't say curses against them. In fact, you have to dig a hole and bury them with dignity. That's a rule in Islam. I didn't make it up. In fact, I couldn't believe it when I read it. Because it's Allah who creates all life. And it's Allah who commands what's right and what's wrong. And you give the respect and the dignity and the honor even when they don't give it to you. And that's a clear message to all of us today, because we are being treated very badly in a lot of places. And I know that. I've been there and I have seen it. But the answer is still the same, and Allah said, Inna Allaha ma'a sabarin. Allah will be with us only if we're patient, but we must be patient.
Allahu Akbar, 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 Allahu Akbar.
A hole and bury them with dignity. That's a rule in Islam. I didn't make it up. In fact, I couldn't believe it when I read it. Because it's Allah who creates all life. And it's Allah who commands what's right and what's wrong. And you give the respect and the dignity and the honor even when they don't give it to you. And that's a clear message to all of us today, because we are being treated very badly in a lot of places. And I know that. I've been there and I have seen it. But the answer is still the same, and Allah said, Inna Allaha ma'a sabarin. Allah will be with us only if we're patient, but we must be patient. We cannot bend the rules, we cannot change things hoping to make things work out better, because all we'll do is make it worse. It is up to us to understand the reality of the situation and give rights where rights are due. And there doesn't need an argument. That's clear. It's a clear statement. There are many other rights and responsibilities that go along with Islam. But the biggest one goes to Allah. Never make partners with Allah. So as I started, I end and mention that these rights and responsibilities have to be shown to the youth in a way that they can assimilate it and use it, so that as they grow older, they'll be able to use it and pass it on to the next generations. I invite all of you to come to our website and learn more about the rights in Islam. IslamTomorrow.com. That's IslamTomorrow.com. The website's open 24 hours a day and plenty of free parking. Yeah, right. You guys got it. And until next time, this is your host, Yusuf Estes, reminding you Allah is the salam, the peace. So, salam alaikum. I fooled you. I left it recording. Okay. Question after question after question. If it wasn't your question, you're probably not going to listen. And that's a problem that we have, but it's a real problem. Somebody can ask a question about riba, but you say, well, that's not exactly my question, so I won't listen to the answer. So what I do, sum it up. If you want to know about riba, read the last part of Surah Baqarah. It's haram. Simple as that. You want to know about hijab? It's a requirement for ladies to dress. The code is clear. It's in the Quran. Chapter 24, verse 31. And chapter 33, verse 59. It's a dress code ordered by Allah. He didn't order a dress code for men in the Quran. He ordered that in the Sunnah, in the Hadith. Which group should you be in? You're going to ask this question about the madhab or madhab. And there is a madhab that is correct. But it's not Hanafi. It's not Maliki. And it's not Shafi. And it's not Hanbali. And it's not Jafri. It's not. Because all of them were on the madhab of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so that's the only madhab that's acceptable. For the benefit of those who don't know what I'm talking about, madhab, it means school of thought or jurisprudence. Scholars have opinions. And you say, I follow this scholar or that scholar. They didn't ask you to follow them. Show me where he said, follow me. You have to follow me. Which scholar said that? Because if he said it, he's not a scholar, is he? That's easy, isn't it? I'd like to quote at least one or two of the Imams in their sayings. One of the great Imams said, Don't quote me. He's even said, don't quote me, because what I say tomorrow, I change my mind. Today, tomorrow, I change my mind. And Imam Malik said, I forbid anybody to even take what I'm saying unless you know where I got it from. And all of them, Imam Shafi especially said, if the hadith is sahih, that's my madhab. They all said the same thing. So, which group? We have it on the website. We have an article that we wrote about it. Because I know some of you are going to say, yeah, but I want... Okay, you want to read. You want... Good, I'm glad for you. I want you to do that. That's why I wrote the article. It's called Which Groups? And read what Allah called us in the Quran. Allah never called us Shiites or Sunnis in the Quran. Did you know that? He also didn't call us Sufis or Goofies. He also... What? He also didn't call us some... all these other names that come up. I don't need to give you a list. You know. And as far as somebody saying they're Wahhabi, that's haram to even say that. You know why? Who knows it's wrong to say that? Why? Why? That's the name of Allah. Al-Wahhab. Is it? Is that the name of Allah? Do you not remember I was just talking about in another section, don't make fun of Allah's names? And you're calling somebody a Wahhabi? You can't say it about yourself, and you cannot say it about somebody else. Because it's Allah's name. Don't play with it. And by the way, the people who played with that were the enemies of somebody, but they didn't want to call him by his name, his followers by his name, so they called it by his father's name. His name, he lived 270 years ago, his name was Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. But they don't call him Abdul Wahhabis, or bin Abdul Wahhabis, or Mohammedans, because they know you could catch them in what they're saying. But these were the enemies to this particular scholar and his teachings. What he was saying is that basically you shouldn't worship people in their graves, and you shouldn't worship the grave site, and you shouldn't build these big temples in there to go to. And his followers tore down those places in the graveyards, and they became so angry that instead of dealing with the fact, he brought the proof. But they didn't like it, so they insulted him, and they wrote books against him. Because it messed up their Sufi tariqas. Okay? So they did that, and they lied, and they keep on lying until today. But I've read his books. He's got the best book I ever read, translated to English, on Tawheed, and it's called Kitab al-Tawheed. How many of you heard about it? Did you find anything wrong in it? He quoted the book of Allah. And they can't argue with that, so they just said a label, Wahhabi. And some people call themselves Wahhabi and they think it's good. I'm saying either way it doesn't work. Whether you say it because you think it's good or think it's bad, either way, it's the name of Allah. It doesn't have any business in this subject. Salafi. I know that some brothers are going to say, hold on man, Salaf Salih. Come on, baby. What you talking about now? You going to tell me about the hadith of Rasul Sallallahu when he was dying? And he mentioned about the Salaf Salih on his deathbed. The people who will be the followers of the righteous predecessors. Anybody know what I'm talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sheikh, you know? The point is, it means people who were before you who are dead. I don't think you really want to call yourself that. Are you saying you're dead? Are you saying you're Salih? You wish, but you don't have the right to say it. Proof? What did Allah say to the Bedouins in Surah Al-Hujurat? What did He say to them? When the ignorant Arabs living in the desert made Shahada and they said, now we're mu'min. Hey! And Allah told them, don't say that. Who said it? Allah. He told them, don't say that you are mu'min because Iman has not yet entered your qalb, your heart. Just say you're Muslim. Just say we have Islamed. Is that fact or no? So the best that we can say about ourselves is we're Muslim. And that's what Allah called us so many times that I quoted him on that article. It's called Which Groups. And if you want to go straight to it, you can do so. islamtomorrow.com/which groups .htm. Read the whole article. But also be aware that these labels are exactly what have divided us. A lot of people complain about the British because in Northern Africa and even in India when they cut up the section and called it Pakistan, you blame them because they cut up the geography on a map and drew lines and then said, oh, Libya, Tunisia, Maghreb, Egypt, Algeria, sorry. All of it's there, right? And these are countries, right? All of a sudden you got an excuse to be against somebody because he's from there and you're from here. Same surah. Same exact surah. Allah said what? That He created us all from a single, and from the single the mate, and from these two He brought all the nations and tribes. He made us different so that we would what? Slaughter each other? Kill each other? Insult each other? Call each other kafir? No, so we'd recognize each other. You're killing yourselves, and you're killing your children from this stupid idea. And you've done worse than the British ever did, or anybody ever did to us. We did a lot worse to ourselves by these stupid names. The Prophet ﷺ was very clear about this. He said, I leave you with two things. If you stick to that, stick to those two things. What did he mean? The Quran and what? His Sunnah. But you don't call yourself Sunnis. Because if you do, you're going to find another idiot group who are going to call themselves Quranis. We just follow the Quran. How many of you know there is a group like that today? They're called, yeah, they have a website, submission.org. Have you ever seen that round thing that has a string on it and the kids play with it and goes up and down? What do you call it? Yeah, that's what I said. When you say these names, you're dividing us. But if you say Islam and Muslim, then we unite right away. Who do you think called us Sunnis first? The Shiites. We didn't call ourselves that. But by giving us the label, then they have an excuse. You're Sunni, I'm Shiite. But if we both said we're Muslims and you're Muslims, you have an opinion about this, the fitna which took place. Maybe somebody else has another opinion, but you're still Muslims. But as soon as you do this thing, you can start calling each other kafir. And that's exactly what happens. That's from shaitan. Shaitan, both sides have to agree that shaitan, the devil, is behind the splitting of the Muslims. Yes or no? If you said, I'm going to side with Muawiyah on the issue, you'll be wrong, by the way. But that's from shaitan. And the siding with Ali against the Muslims, they were right in the end. But did you know there were some Sahabi who didn't take a side either way? We were talking about it in the car today. Remember that? Who was it you said? He didn't, huh? Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas. He said, I'm not there on this one. Right? Because Muslims are fighting Muslims. That's why it was called by the next generation, they called it the fitna. The horrible time when Muslims fought against Muslims and some got killed. Who did it? We did it to ourselves. This is amazing. How can you look and blame, oh, let's blame the Jewish, let's blame the Christians, let's blame... Why? Nobody need to blame them. Just look what you do to yourself. The fact that they get all happy when you do it, but that's not meaning they did it. We did it to ourselves. Nobody can destroy the Muslims. Nobody except the Muslims. You want me to prove it to you? Afghanistan. A year ago, a little over a year now. Who went in the ground, on the ground, footwork, and killed Muslims? Other Muslims, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The non-Muslims didn't have the guts to go in there. Other Muslims. Oh, they don't mind flying over, you know, pushing buttons. That's no big. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, I got one. And give me a big award or something, you know, put a button on me. Oh, look at this, he's very brave, pushing them buttons. But on the ground patrol, who will go in? And stop and think about it. That's where it's really at. The Muslims fighting the Muslims, we're killing ourselves. You want to do it with label, you want to do it with geography, you want to do it with politics, it all comes down to the same thing. We have lost everything because of this. Allah has taken the success away from us because of this. The question, the logical question, if Islam is as great as it is, it looks fantastic in the books. When you read about Islam, when you study Islam with a sheikh, you get so excited, your heart is pounding, you're saying, this is it, this is the solution to every power, every problem in the universe. The power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala solve everything. You can see it. And then you got to go, but what happened? Why are you guys like this? Why are you in such a shape? And when I ask them, they hang their heads. I said, I can't hear you. What are you saying? What happened, guys? And one of them looked at me and said, well, it's because the women stopped wearing hijab. Maybe not. How do you respond to that question? Is Islam correct, yes or no? Does it have the solution to every problem in it, yes or no? Then how do you explain the condition of the Muslims today? Very simple. They're not following Islam. Bottom line, don't blame Islam for what Muslims do. Because Allah never took away our free choice. We still have free choice. And always will to the very end. But when we don't follow Islam and say it's Islam, duh. Did the Prophet ﷺ forbid women to ride a camel? Donkey? I'm not calling you a donkey. I'm saying, did he forbid them to ride a donkey? Did he? Horse? Cow? Is there any transportation that he forbid them to ride on? Because I'm trying to find an answer to a problem. Can a woman drive a car? Can a woman drive a car? Well, according to the people who attack Islam, Islam says women can't drive cars. And they'll quote it to you right out of the Saudi newspaper. Yes or no? But it's not Islam. And even when they asked the scholars told them, no, it's not Islam. They said, well, we have our reasons, blah, 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 blah. But regardless of what their reason is, and they may be right or not, that's not our point. Our point is, don't say it's Islam. It's not Islam. Islam does not oppress women. Never did, never will. Muslims do. But Muslims oppress each other. They oppress themselves. Yes or no? Duh. So these are some of the things I know you ask about in your questions, but understand that a lot of the questions that you throw out are loaded with garbage. We're answering harsh questions against Islam right now, against the attackers, against us. And they come to us with questions like, well, if Islam is so great, then how come Muslims are having problems everywhere? Have you heard it? That's one of the questions. How come in every Muslim country, their question to us, how come in every Muslim country you have Muslims who are doing this and doing that and doing so and so and so and so and so? And either way you look at it. Number one, the leadership is not really Muslim. Duh. Or if they are, they're not really following Quran and Sunnah. Duh. Or the other side of it, the result the Muslims are living under is not Islam. Is that right or wrong? Okay. Another question. How come you guys have 4 wives? And your women only have 1 husband? Anybody heard that one? Raise your hand if you heard a question like that. Keep your hand up if you have 4 wives. It's a non-question. That's a non-question. Ladies, does anybody here want to know why? You really want to know, be honest, you really would like to know why a man can have 4 but a woman can only have 1? Raise your hand if you have this question. Yes, sister, are you married? Okay, I want you to picture your husband in your mind right now. Just imagine him right now. You got it in your mind? What he's like, what he does, how he is. Would you like another one just like him? Then why do you talk about 4? Thank you. Next question. That's not the answer. By the way, I'm just having fun. That is the name of this section, having fun with Islam, by the way. Yes or no? Yeah. What I'm saying is that in reality, we don't even understand the meaning behind it. Did I mention to you Islam is about rights? Did I mention that? We just had a segment about that. And if Islam is about rights, I need to know who's getting the short end of the stick here. Women or men? Watch this. Look at it from another perspective. We live here, we can't imagine what it's like to live somewhere else. If you travel around the world, you get a better perspective, but I'm going to ask you, can you really be subjective? Objective? No, I meant to say objective. Can you be objective when you're so subjective? Meaning that you live in Canada, it's hard to imagine what it's like in Mexico. But how about this? You live on the earth. So how could you imagine what it's like to live on Mars? And if somebody lived on Mars, how could they imagine what it's like to live on Earth? You understand yet? Now let's look at the question another way. At the time the ruling came in Islam, are you aware that there was no limit anywhere about how many wives a man could have? There was no limit. So when the order came, get this out of your mind. It didn't come like this. Okay, everybody go out and get 4 wives. It didn't say that. It came as a limitation, and it came as a responsibility and rights. And the rights, first of all, were to who? Because you have to go to the ayah before it so you don't take it out of context. It's in Surah An-Nisa, and it's saying if you, the whole ayah, just read the whole ayah, and if you fear that you cannot deal with them in justice, whoa, excuse me, and, you started a word, and, I mentioned that today in another program we were talking about. When you hear an ayah start with a wow, you have to go behind it to find out what it's about. And if you feel you can't, deal with who? Go back and read the other ayah. It's talking about the inheritance of underage girls. Maybe that somebody, in one of the tafsirs, I was just reading it again yesterday, or the day before. Yesterday I spent in the airport. And it said, suppose, it's given the understanding that it's talking about a man who said he wants this money from these girls, these underage girls, to the extent he might marry their mother. Because they're orphans, their father's dead. He might marry the mother so he can get the inheritance from the girls. Or he might marry the girls, even though they're underage or they're very small. Because they could do that, there was no limit. And then he could take the money for himself. And people used to just swallow up the inheritance of these girls. And Allah said, if you fear that you cannot deal with them justly, and He's talking about inheritance in the ayah, yes or no? Then marry women of your choice by 2 You can have 2 wives, or 3. You could have 3, or 4 wives. You could have 4. But then look what Allah said. He put another limit, another condition. 4 now is the maximum. There's a limit there. But look at this limit. He said, if you can treat them with equal justice, fair, money. Otherwise, marry only 1. Who said that? Allah said that. Now, ask yourself a question. Today, here in Calgary, Alberta, how many of you married? Raise your hands, brothers. No, not the wannabes. Put your hand. I'm talking just the some very excited brothers here tonight. You're married, and do you have to work to support that wife? Is it hard? You have to have a job, yes or no? How many of you are working 2 jobs? You have more than 1 job. That means if you took another wife, you'd have to go get 2 more jobs. Yes or no? She's entitled to what the other wife's entitled to. And it's taking you 2 jobs now to take care of 1, yes or no? So that means now you're going to have 4. You want 4 wives? What is that, 16 jobs or something? I don't know. Give up. And what happened exactly is this, that over those centuries, men, first of all, let's start in the beginning. First of all, some Sahabi had to divorce some of their wives. How many of you knew that? So it was the opposite of what you think. They didn't run out and go, hey, wives. They already had that. They were saying, oh no, too many wives. And they had a divorce. 4 was the limit, yes or no? So it wasn't funny. These are not a bunch of, I don't want to use that word. These are not a bunch of excited guys running around chasing after women. You knew what the word was. Shame on you. Anyhow. I didn't know brown people could turn red. Anyway. He's not going to talk to me tonight. Anyhow, what I'm saying is that the next thing is that over the 1400 years, Muslims became monogamous by natural attrition. It wasn't that if Allah would have said you can only have 1, probably some people might have left Islam. And probably there would have been a lot of hardship for a lot of women as well. But now, I've been in so many Muslim countries, if I bring up the subject of 4 wives, they usually fall over laughing. Laughing. Indonesia, I said, in Indonesia, do you have 4 wives? They're laughing at me. In Pakistan, they didn't laugh, they said, Egypt, they laugh. Of course, they laugh about everything in Egypt. But let's now look something for you, sister. Islam is about rights. Today, we're almost to the point of a hadith of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said in the last days, 1 man would be responsible for 50 women. How many of you heard the hadith? Okay, then you know that. Today we have over 30 women for every man on earth. Is it possible that they could all get a nice husband? It's not even possible they could all get a husband, is it? And how would you know? Who would you take? You said, this guy's not married. Grab him. Why? Because that's all there is. Take him. And then you come to find out, oh, woo. And I'm married to him. Yeah, that's what you would feel like. But look what happens in Islam. You can look and see this man, how he treats his wife. And the Prophet ﷺ even advised the woman not to marry such and such a person because he was bakhil, stingy. And not to marry another one because he beats his wives. We just talked about that today too. Did he or didn't he do it? He gave him this advice. So it means she could marry this man knowing walking in the door what his shortcomings are. Of course, if she likes to get by with no clothes, and just want to sit around with no money, she might like that. Or if she'd like somebody to beat her up all the time, she might like that. But more than likely, she could say, look at this guy. He's very religious, he's very kind, he's very gentle, and he has a nice house for his wife. If he takes me, I get a kind, nice husband with a nice house, and I like that. Make sense? Huh? And now finally, watch this. A man can choose from any woman, right? As long as she has no husband. I'm talking about Muslims. He can choose from any Muslim as long as she has no husband, right? So that's a limit, yes or no? That's a big limit, yes or no? She's married, it's off subject. Don't even say anything. But you, on the other hand, can choose from any single man or any married man as long as he doesn't have 4. So who has got the biggest rights here? Who has the most choices? Nobody said you had to marry him, and nobody says you have to stay married to him. If he decides he wants another wife, tell him go ahead. In fact, you'll still have room for 3 more after her, because guess what? Hope your math is good. Every brother here knows that. But there's a point that I think you ladies know better than we do. Men are nothing but big boys. That's all they are. And sometimes men feel like, oh, wow, if I had another chance, probably I could have, yeah, right. Well, let him have his little daydream. Let him have his imagination. I'm going to get another wife. Because it's a whole lot safer than him going out here and chasing after a prostitute or a mistress. If he wants to get another wife, let him go through the process. Let him talk to his buddies. And finally, he'll come up against somebody like me. He'll say, you do. You what? You are joking, right? What's he going to say? Because I'm going to remind him of how many jobs he already has. You already got one house you can't pay for. You're looking for a fetwa so you can get refinancing on it. So what are you going to do when you get another wife? Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. And he'll get over it. And you find it's very nice, and husband and wife live very well together in Islam. So ladies, don't panic. Some of you are new to Islam, and your husband starts talking about another wife. Don't panic. Don't panic. If he feels like he can handle it, tell him, yes, very good for you. And feed him a lot of fish and oysters, Like one sister, she said, well, you know what? It should be because she's going to be a co-wife with me. I should help you pick her out because I'm going to live with her too. I'm going to be seeing this lady and she's sharing my husband. It makes sense? He said, yeah. She said, okay, I got a lady I want you to come meet her. Her name is Bertha. She's real sweet. By the way, in Texas, when you say a girl's real sweet, she weighs 400 pounds. Don't argue with him. You'll push him right toward it. Tell him, go ahead. Am I right? Islam is right. There's nothing wrong with Islam. It's just our understanding is weak. But by and large, look at this. Islam preaches that there's no such thing as a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Ever. There's no such thing as sex outside of marriage in Islam. If they do it before they're married, the punishment is lashes. It's very harsh. If they do it after they're married, the punishment's death. And by the way, it's in the Bible, the same thing. So this is a part of the monotheistic religion, and any Christian who attacks you on that point has just attacked his own religion. So there's nothing there to argue about. There's no sex outside of marriage, and that's that. That's final. I noticed in the newspaper the other day a horrible thing that they're doing now in the schools in the States is they have an examination that they're giving to students. They volunteer for it, and only a very few opt not to take it. But they have to answer questions asking these kids in middle school questions like, when was the last time you had a partner, and blah, 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 and did you do X and Y, and did you do Z, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to tell you the things. It's in the newspaper, a public newspaper. You buy it. It's not a trash magazine. I guess it's a trash newspaper. But it tells you, I can't say what it said, that they're asking these children in public school. They said they need it for statistics. If you saw the questions, you'd be so shocked. You'd say, I don't want anybody to talk to my little sister, my little brother, with these words. They have no problem. In Islam, if anybody answered yes to any of the questions that were there, trust me, they'd be in serious trouble. But the way they worded it, when the kids were done taking the little quiz, they felt like, well, gee, I'm not getting out and doing enough here. I'm not normal. You know what? I don't even know what those parts of the body were called. They have no problem. In Islam, if anybody answered yes to any of the questions that were there, trust me, they'd be in serious trouble. But the way they worded it, when the kids were done taking the little quiz, they felt like, well, gee, I'm not getting out and doing enough here. I'm not normal. You know what? I don't even know what those parts of the body were called. I will mention this part of it to you. Same sex. They ask a lot of questions about that to these kids. The last time you were with same-sex, as though what? My God! And these are the people going to question Islam? Wow. The part that hurts the most is knowing that Islam is absolutely perfect, nothing wrong with it, but seeing Muslims starting to question it themselves. That hurts. We were talking about rights, and I'm telling you that if you really give Allah His rights, and give the Messenger ﷺ his rights, and give your parents their rights, it only follows that you will naturally give the rights. Allah, He'll guide you, and you'll see, you'll understand. But a lot of times the questions that I get from you, and I get thousands of them, okay? The way the question is worded, I can already understand part of the problem. The people who come to me and say, why is it that your prophet was 53 years old and he had sex with a 6-year-old girl? How many of you heard that question? Too many. How would you answer the question? Who would like to try to answer that one? Anybody? You'd like to answer it? Or you think you can answer it? I wouldn't like to even talk to the person after they said that. You notice what's wrong with the question? It has mistakes in the question. First of all, it's not 6, it's 9. How many of you noticed that? But you know how they did it? It's real easy if you know Arabic. You change the literal letters to English. Tissa was sitta. Same letters, just switch them around. You can fool somebody who doesn't know. Sitta, tissa, 9, 6, no difference. That's one. Yeah, you think these people are just playing? What's the other one? The question itself has a huge problem in it. What did it say? Said he had sex. What did that imply? No marriage. Was he married to her? Who was it? Actually, it's nobody, because there's no such thing as 6 years old. That's not real. So it's not even a deal. You could stop them right there. You can say, okay, I'll tell you real easy. That never happened. Next question. Now they got to go come up with some proof, don't they? Let me tell you, we've answered these questions, and we have them recorded. By the way, if you want them, you can have them. When we gave the answer to the wives thing, I did that as a program in Toronto. The sisters liked it better than anybody. They were going crazy about it. They thought it was fabulous. Because in the whole program there's some jokes in it and everything. But the one about the wives, I didn't joke around with that too much, because I was really upset with the question when it came. I spent actually not just a few hours but days writing the answer for that, and then published it, because this answer is very, very important. Look how many things you can cover with this answer. First of all, you say your question has problems in it, but still it's my responsibility as a Muslim to answer your question. And as a Muslim, I must always tell the truth. I have to tell the truth. That's a requirement as a Muslim. So I'm going to tell you that. The next thing is that when you ask a question, if it has something wrong with it, don't we have to straighten it out? For instance, if I went to you and you're talking to them, and I went to you and I said to you, by the way, can you answer me yes or no? Is your mother out of jail yet? My mother's not in jail. No, yes or no? Is your mother out of jail? Well, my mother's not in jail. Oh, I'm glad she got out. What could he say? And that's a hard thing to tell somebody something like that, because that's evil, that's mean, that's rude to talk like that, isn't it? Isn't it? To say something like that. You're saying something that's not true in the question. Either I'm going to accept it and try to answer that, which is wrong, or else I'm going to try to dispute with you in the question, and that's not going to work. We have to clean the question up. Let's do that. The next thing I have to ask you is, where did you get this statement from? Because in Islam, for us, we don't consider something to be true unless we know where it came from. Did you get it in a dream? Because if you did, we're not going to take it. If you pulled it off the internet, that's as bad as dreaming. I want to know what's the source for what you said. You've said a monstrous thing here. Where did you get this from? And you know what I want them to say? I want them to say it's in Hadith. I want them to say that. You know why? Because I want to introduce a beautiful subject to them called Rawaya. Because they don't realize that the whole society that we have today hinges on the science of Hadith. There wouldn't be this university here that you're sitting in if it weren't for the science of Hadith. How many of you know that? Because science as we know it today is to take information and test it against reality and see if it holds water or not. Yes or no? That's science, isn't it? You check and you recheck and you check and you recheck, and that's how you determine what's up and what's down. Yes or no? And you never agree in science on something illogical, do you? This is what? Up. I'm pointing up. What is that? It's up. Huh? In all societies, that's up, right? And that's down. If that's down and that's up, we're never going to have a logical argument where you're going to come along and switch it and say, well, today that's going to be up and that'll be down. Right? It's called logic. And science is based on something called proof. Right? And how we know is from the science of Hadith. The pattern used to test to see if something's true was used by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, who was his student. And all of the great shuyukh until this day rely on that science to find out, did he say it? Did he do it? Did he approve of it? Did he forbid it? This is the science of Hadith. Is that right? Did you know that Scotland Yard in England based exactly their science of criminology on the same thing? Did you know that? Well, they didn't either. So when you tell them that, they go, really? Yes. Did you ever read Sherlock Holmes? It's a fictitious character, but the methodology, the manhaj is the same. Take information and compare it against truths. And when something doesn't work, you don't accept it. They're saying, yeah, but I don't understand. Because what I'm going to tell you is, this hadith that you're talking about is something we understand real well. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you I believe it more than you believe it. Because you're not even sure there was somebody named Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but I am. I'm positive there was. You're not even sure there was somebody named Jesus, but I'm positive that there was. You're not positive there was somebody named Moses or Abraham, and I'm positive there was. Because you don't know how to check this. And they're going, huh? What? Many Christians, and I've read their books, think that Abraham is like a made-up guy that they just refer to and maybe didn't even exist. It's true. A lot of Christians say, well, it's the spirit of Jesus. We don't really know if he lived in or though. It doesn't really matter. Really? I never met a Muslim, though, who didn't believe that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam really was a person who walked on the earth. Because we have a proof. That's Islam. It's based on proof, proof, proof. Dalil. What's the dalil? The hadith. What does the hadith say? What's the first words of every hadith? Do you know? The first word in every hadith says what? No. On the authority of somebody. Isn't that how they all start? And the hadith about the marriage of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Aisha radiallahu anha always start out with what? On Aisha. She's the one that told the story. The hadith you're bringing me is by her. Yes or no? They don't know what you're talking about. Because you bring the hadith and show them she said that when she was about 9 years old, tissa, not sitta, that she was playing and her parents called her inside. Who called her inside? Did the Prophet ﷺ call her inside and say, hey, come on over here, I got a lollipop for you? Astaghfirullah. This is the way they're bringing it. It's her parents. And by the way, both parents. Something the people in the Western society don't understand because they don't have both parents. Either they're not married anymore or they never were in the first place. You want to call the kettle black? I got some news for you. They're going, whoa. You're the one bringing the nasty question. You want to straighten it out? We'll straighten it out. Next. She said they called her in and talked to her about that when she's old enough that the Prophet ﷺ is making an offer and that Father Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is offering marriage to him of his daughter. But Allah said in the Quran that nobody can force the girls to get married against their will. Surah An-Nisa. Yes or no? Therefore, she's not old enough, she couldn't make the decision. She went back outside and continued playing with her dolls. Yes or no? And that it was a couple of years later, when she was old enough to have children, that he came back and they talked about it again, and the father went and made the arrangement with the Prophet ﷺ, and then they went to her and asked her, and she agreed. Yes or no? She was an old enough girl to have babies, and her parents were contracting the marriage. Yes or no? In the state of Louisiana, you can do it today with a 12-year-old girl, no problem, if her parents sign a consent form. Yes or no? And what is your point? And did they run out and have sex right away? No, because we have some more hadith right here by the same An Aisha radiallahu anha. You want to take one? Do you take everything she says or none or some? Which one? Because if you're going to introduce, this is slander, baby. Then you take that in a court of law, I'll be the judge. Come on, bring it. This witness right now, witness, you accept this witness on saying this? Do you accept everything she says, yes or no? If you say no, she's a hostile witness, we don't take it. Are you going to take everything she said, yes or no? Because either she's a credible witness or she's not. I just want you to tell me, are you going to take everything she says, yes or no? If he says no, then it's the moot point. Then don't bring any of it. If he says yes, then good, I'm glad. Let's take all of it. Because one of the things she said was, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Does that mean you're going to accept that too? He said, what does that mean? It means that when I'm done with the answer to this question, you're going to be at the fork in the road in your life. You're going to have to make a decision. Are you prepared for that? Because you're going to have to rethink your entire life structure based on this question that you just asked. Because when it's over, you will have to rethink your position. And if you find out that there's something wrong with your thinking, something wrong with the way that you're bringing questions and attacking someone who turns out to be somebody great, then what will you say? What will you do? Are you prepared to rethink your position? Are you prepared to worship God without any partners? Yes or no? And they're going, whoa, man, what are you talking about? No, I just want to know. You want the answer to the question? Because I'm going to give you the answer. But I'm just asking you, are you prepared for the answer? Yeah, sure, go ahead. I hope he says yes. By the way, many of them have made shahada afterwards. One of them came to us with a harsh question when we were over in London, Ontario. He asked the question, why do you worship a black box in the desert? We give the answer right there, just like you're sitting here. He was right there beside me. He stood up and made shahada. It's recorded. We had another one. I was also in London, Ontario, but the night before I left, last time. He stood up and made his shahada while we were broadcasting online. What I'm telling you is, when people see the truth, they're the ones going to have a problem, not you. Why would you be shy to tell people about Islam? Why are you shy? Because you don't know what's Islam, that's why. You don't understand what it's there for. You didn't understand that 4 wives was for the women. You didn't understand that this was to show the marriage to the Rasul ﷺ for any of his wives is to show examples of what's halal and haram in marriage. And one of them is you couldn't get married to a girl until she's old enough to make the decision. And the parents can't decide for her. It has to be her free will. And then, and this is the next hadith, that she said that when they got married, that he began very what? Gentle and kind, and they had fun together and ran and played together before there was any sex. Hello, how about that? That they used to run and she used to beat him in a race, but when she got older she was heavy and she couldn't beat him in the last days when they were married together. Then what happened? He used to beat her. Is that true or false? And she used to like to tease him and do stuff. Like making him stand a long time in the doorway so she could peek over and watch guys playing in the masjid when she didn't really care about that. She just wanted to see how long he'd stay there. And how about the time when she and Hafsa and some of the others got together and decided, hey, you know what? Zainab, I think, had the honey, right? And the Prophet ﷺ would go get the honey from her and said, let's tell him that it makes his breath smell bad. And that way he won't do it, and then he'll come with us more time. Just, fooling around, foolishness that women like to do. And guess what? The Prophet ﷺ got real serious and he thought, well, if my breath smells bad, it's haram. He made honey haram. And then all of a sudden Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Surah At-Tahrim. Yes or no? Oh, my Prophet. Oh, look out. And he told him, you don't make halal and haram around here. Yeah. Allah is threatening even the Prophet ﷺ on this subject. So that's for us too. Don't make halal and haram. Many things came with Aisha radiallahu anha. Wonderful things. Tayammum came from her. The gossip that was spread around, that was cleared up in Surah An-Nur to defend her by Allah, came from Aisha radiallahu anha. Tell them, let them see the beauty of the marriage of Islam. I'm not going to give you the whole answer on this one. I'm going to go to the end of it. The end of it, after I've told them all the things that she said. Are you going to take what she said because she's the one that told us when they got married? Are you going to take it, yes or no? She said this, she said this. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that? Do you agree with this? He's going, yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And at the very end, I have the biggest one for you. Let's take all of these hadiths from her and take her name and Muhammad's name sallallahu off of the hadith, and let's remove any identification of the time period, and let's go to any social worker that you know. Let's go to any psychologist, counselor, or psychiatrist, or doctor, or sex maniac, crudhead on Oprah Winfrey or Jerry Springer, and ask them, what do they say about this? And they're going to say, you wish you had a life mate like that. And then what will you do? You wish you had that relationship. SubhanAllah. And they're crying. They're saying, I didn't know. I didn't know. And say, I'm not blaming you. I'm asking you to consider where you got the question from. Because that was Shaitan himself. Whoever you got it from, that was the devil himself. Because everybody who knows the Arabic language, such as the Coptic Christians that translated that and put it on the website that you got it from, and I know where it came from, they know better and they don't care because they know they're worshiping other than Allah. You don't think I know where it came from? Because I got all of their questions. They hit me with 50 of them at one time 4 years ago. 50. A lot. Maybe not 50. A lot of them. They were all the same way. All very hateful. And pretending that they're Muslim. I'm a new Muslim and I just have these few questions. You say, what? How are you a brand new Muslim and you're knowing about hadith that even the ulama doesn't even know is there? Huh? Yeah, right. Yeah, thanks a lot. So this is a word of advice. When you get these kind of questions, take it easy and be patient. Because these same people could be just like me. When I came to Islam, I didn't come that way. I didn't come up to Islam saying, oh, I'd like to be a Muslim today. You have time for me? I'm asking a man in his face, do you believe in God? You ever hear of Abraham? By the way, this brother that brought me to Islam, if you'd like to know a little sample of the subject, he's from the Ahl Bayt, from Ali. Yes, his family traces themselves all the way back to Ali. Ali traces all the way back to Abraham, alayhi salam. And Abraham, of course, you can trace back to Adam. And I'm asking a man, did he ever hear of Abraham? He could have said, yeah, it's my grandfather. But he didn't. He said, yes, I've heard of him. Look at that. I'm telling you, dawah is a special thing. It's a very, very delicate field. Be careful. Don't insult these people. When you go in chat rooms, don't call people names and stuff. Trust me. You're going to see a lot of people coming to Islam in the very near future. You can be a part of it or not. Up to you. It's not because of me. I know it's not. In fact, it's in spite of me that I see so many people come to Islam. Thousands, alhamdulillah, come to Islam. They come through our website. They come through the tapes. They come through the CDs. We're getting people all the time who want Islam. A lot more than the born Muslims do. There's a hunger out there for this. They need it. You can pick up any newspaper and see the disease that's in this society. And Islam has the answer. These people need what you have. But you've got to take the time to learn it and teach it. You must do that. And the youth, you're the ones that we're looking for. You can do this. Because you still have time. Once you get married, once you have children, your excuse is going to be, I'm too busy. But right now you can turn off the TV and spend a little bit more time studying the Quran, studying the Hadith. You can leave those video games alone and spend some time with the Sheikh. I'm serious. This is not a part-time thing. We're not going to call it Deen Intensive, okay? It's just plain out life. It's right in front of you. All you got to do is switch off the TV and go to work. It's as simple as that. And by the way, it's free. I didn't charge you anything for it. It's there. Islam is there. If you want it, it's there. If you don't want it, well, that's your choice. But somebody's going to do it. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the last day will not come until Islam has entered every single house on the earth. And that was at a time when people didn't even know the earth was round. And he said it. It will enter every house on the earth. somebody in every house on the earth is going to know about Islam. And we're there. And there's going to be people who are going to rise up and they're going to defend Islam. Whether it's you or somebody else, it doesn't matter. It's going to happen. Hadiths are there. But they're not going to do it in a flaky way. They're not going to do it in a sneaky way. They're going to run around here building backyard bombs and blowing up somebody's car. Okay, just in case you're wondering what my position is on that, it's stupid. For sure, Allah will bring success to the real believers. And that's real close. How close? I don't know. But it's close. One hadith, by the way, listen to this. Part of a big hadith mentions in the last day that a man's extremities will talk to him. And his side will inform him of what's going on in his house while he is away. How many of you heard that hadith? Where do you keep your cell phone? Where do you keep your pager? One brother said, no, but women keep theirs in their purse. Right, and where do they carry their purse? On their side. Hello. Okay. Oops. It's this close. And he said when you see the signs coming, it's going to be like you break a string of pearls and they go right off. That close. We've been talking about the fun you can have in Islam. You're going, whoa, wait a minute, that's not the subject. You were talking about some different subject here. No, I'm not. I'm telling you the best way to have fun in Islam. You know what it is? Just learn about it and live like a Muslim. That's a lot of fun for me. How many of you had fun tonight? How many of you would have paid if it would have cost money? You know you're safe. We can't charge you. So alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave us the deen. It's a nama, a favor, but it's amana, it's a trust. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of us. May He put us in the right way here and in the next life. Ameen. You're listening to Islam tomorrow. I'm not recording it, so I don't have to shut it off. You're listening to Islam tomorrow, and that's the end of that program.
Takbir! Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.